Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, welcome to the show. What show? The only show, the show that matters. State of the Grizz, coming to you live and direct here in spring one semester. Gutman Community College's outreach news show for the community. Coming back live once again. I am one of your co hosts. My name is Nestor Melendez, Director of Student Leadership and Campus Life. Happy to be here with you and joined always as ever by my good friend, colleague, and boss, VP of Student Engagement, Charles Pryor.
Good afternoon, Nestor. Good afternoon, everyone watching this live and that's going to watch this on YouTube on the college's channel. It's absolutely a pleasure to be back here. I'm going to say Happy New Year because we haven't seen you since the start of the new year. And I know it's March and we probably shouldn't say that anymore, but I went for it. As we were chatting here earlier, love the medium, love the opportunity to be here with you, love the opportunity to talk to you about things that are happening at Gutman, things that are happening in and around New York City, things that affect you as students, and also bring you a worldwide perspective. As usual, I'm going to take 30 seconds of privilege and talk about the t-shirt that I'm wearing today. And it is the Get Your Knees Off Our Neck t-shirt, which many of you have seen before, because the trial of Derek Chauvin in Minnesota started yesterday. And it's just a reminder that we still live in a society where these things happen and that we still have a long way to go. But I wanted to, again, take 30 seconds of privilege to talk about my shirt, maybe even to preview it a little bit, and then say thank you for allowing me to continue to have that privilege. As always, we have a dynamic guest today who typically needs no introduction, but I'm going to give her one anyway. And that is our Dean of Faculty and Academic Affairs, the illustrious Dr. Nicola Blake. She is here with us and she's going to have some conversations with us in a little bit here as we talk around some of the challenges that students are having in engaging and learning through the virtual environment. In just a few minutes here, our SGA president is going to join us, Ms. Joraine Nieves, and really give us, this is the state of Grizz. She's going to, from the SGA presidential perspective and lens, give us a little bit of the state of our students and help us to really understand where they are, what opportunities they feel they have through the virtual medium, and also some of the challenges and things she believes that we can do to help ameliorate some of those challenges. That's why we're here. To have those discussions, to have those conversations and bring it to you live or, taped, however you decide to view it, but absolutely to bring it to you and support you, because I'm going to say it at least 2 more times today. We got your back and we're here to support you. So Ness,
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. And what's interesting is you make a joke of it, but really the Gutman calendar is such that our spring semester starts in March when many of our CUNY peers are already in class, probably going on 4 weeks by this point, the senior colleges at minimum. So it is New Year for us to a degree. And what a year has been. If I may take a moment of privilege myself, I noticed that the date is March 10th, 2021. If we go back 1 year to the day,
Mm,
this was the day of the pandemic lockdown, the start of the remote or virtual working style. And I sit here blown away that it took me sitting down in front of the machine to have this conversation with you today to realize that it has been exactly 1 year since the Gutman email went out letting us know not to come back into the building until there was a handle on the situation that was developing, which was the COVID crisis. And we find ourselves a year later still working remotely, watching events play out on our screens, watching the world happen, not only on TV screens, but on our internet screens, on our tablets, on our cell phones, in our chats, in our WhatsApp chats, in our group me chats, in our iPod text chats. Like, we still find ourselves interacting with each other in a almost non-human way, and I'm sad that we haven't found a way around this just yet. I do know we're working diligently, as are
Hmm.
most CUNY schools, to try to find a way to bring students back onto campus. But I am, as always, floored by the impact that this has had, not
Hmm.
only on Gutman, not only in CUNY, but we also try to connect it out larger. Higher education and education in general uh, uh, have been touched by this. And
Hmm.
how do we move forward? How do we operate under this thing that people have chosen to call the new normal, which
Right.
is not normal by any stretch of the imagination?
And you hit the nail on the head. Um, this is not normal. We're never going to go back to normal. There is a next reality, because there are so many things that we have learned about ourselves, about the use of technology, but also the value of personal communication and connection, and the stress that it creates on us and our emotions and our productivity, when we don't have that connection. You know, as Dean Blake just put in the chat, I've never said you're muted more than I have this year. I'll be honest with you. I don't recall before the pandemic saying you're muted, because what I've been on probably about 5 Zoom calls before the pandemic. In life. And matter of fact, I think one of those that I'm counting was a Skype call, but that's another story for another day. You know, because it's just a different platform. But Nestor, when we think about where we were a year ago, as you said, it's the 1 year anniversary of our 2 week lockdown. A friend of mine likes to say, and as you said, we went home not knowing. We went home, and there were before 500,000 people in the U.S. died from COVID. We went home not knowing that in 2 weeks we'd be standing on lines to get into our local supermarket at 6 o'clock in the morning. You know, we went home not knowing that we would be praising people that we are also fighting for them to have their salaries or their hourly wages increased, because many of those folks that now have the label of essential workers work at a minimum wage. You know,
Mhm.
we went home not knowing that many of us would not actually meet our professors on the first day of class. We would see them, but we wouldn't meet them and shake their hand. I don't know about any of you. I can't tell you the last time I shook someone's hand. Um, so there's just so many things that are different, and there are just so many things that we have learned. Like I said, before the pandemic, I was on 5 Zoom calls. I'm probably averaging about 30 of them a week. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I do know I've learned a few things. Um, Many of us have become internet experts on infectious disease, as many folks try to figure out what they're going to decide to do with the vaccine, trying to ensure that they don't bring COVID home, and trying to keep their families safe. Um, Many of us have begun to get organized, and found time for things that we were passionate about. We used to joke in one of our very first State of the Grizz podcasts, um, of how I learned to cut my own hair. you know, but that was one of the things that I just wanted to learn. I've also picked up some other skills because I don't have the time of commute and things like that. But I've also, for me, learned the value of those early hours and things that I could get accomplished. Um, I finished a number of books that I had wanted to read, some that I needed to read. Um, and I also learned some new recipes and watched my oldest daughter, really begin to have a love of baking. Watch that develop and grow because I could be home, or I needed to be home in order to do my part as part of the lockdown. So, as you said, a year ago, this thing that we experienced was expressed in an email that didn't have any definite end, didn't have any real direction other than please stay home and don't come back to the building. And here we are, having lost countless many, and so many of us having been directly affected by COVID, um, and just thankful that we could be here to have these conversations. So thank you for, again, I usually say I take 30 seconds of privilege and then it turns into 2 minutes, or
It's all
10.
it's all it's all good.
But
And I think the resounding theme that you spoke about, like as I listen to you speak, is this idea of time, appreciating time, having time, being in places where we weren't used to being before, and seeing what was happening during that time. So you watch your daughter grow up. I certainly have had a wonderful year of watching my daughter transition from 2 to 3 years of age, and where we were, if we were to watch the videos of State of the Grizz a year ago to where we are now, you could see that evolution and that growth. And certainly we all know different things. Before we get to our two guests, because I see that Jerain, SGA president, has joined us, and Dr. Nicola has been with us since the beginning. Um, a year ago, we launched State of the Grizz as an attempt to give news to our Gutman community, specifically the students, but everybody, a chance to hear what we knew about what was happening, in a format that gave them a chance to hear it firsthand, like fresh off the press, hot off the mimeograph, to coin a phrase that you used before. But very quickly, to show you where Gutman has come to, I'm going to share my screen so that folks can see that if you go to our Gutman webpage, which you should be seeing right now. Does everybody see the Gutman webpage? Okay, so this is the main page, and you're going to see the key phrase here: students, we've got your back. Coined and operated by VP Charles Pryor, patent pending. Um, but these four clickable boxes here: personal well-being and resources, distance learning resources, emergency financial assistance, and coronavirus updates, lead us to very specific pages. So the coronavirus updates uh, gives us the latest guidance from CUNY Central and New York State, federal and local governmental level. So that's available for everyone. The emergency funding application takes you to a link that you can click in through your depot. And then at the other side of this, there's a questionnaire for you to fill out that will allow you access to emergency funding for your particular situation. The distance learning resources contains a number of tools and strategies for helping yourself be a successful student, as well as clickable links to some Gutman resources across the college that will help you get out of any binds that you find yourself in. And finally, the essential information for personal well-being, whether that's a link back to the distance learning resources, information about the flexible grading policy, mental health, housing, food availability, financial aid, domestic and gender violence, resources for undocumented, and you can see that we have tried and conspired with our co-collaborators across campus to provide you the latest information so that if you have a question in a moment, The website is active 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days out the year, twice on leap day. Um, and so we really want for folks to take advantage of that. Um, that being said, we're at the 3:30 mark, and I definitely want to make sure that we get our guests here. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Jerain, President Jerain Nieves, and Dr. Blake to go ahead and unmute their microphones. This is a new segment that we're bringing to State of the Grizz, and we're calling this one right now, for lack of a more catchy term, this is Student Voices. And what we're hoping to do here is highlight and bring to you the voice of the student, the perspective of the student. Rather than try to translate that for you, rather than try to tell you what it is and summarize it, we actually have a student. And it's our hope that every week that we do this show, we're going to be featuring a new student with another set of information to share with us. So Jerain, are you with us?
Yeah, we have to unmute her.
Okay,
Okay.
there she is.
Hello.
Hola, awesome.
Hi.
Hi. So, Jerain, so happy to have you join us. Dr. Blake, so happy to have you join us. And so, what we wanted to do really quickly is a couple of days ago, as we were prepping for the show, I asked Jerain, in her capacity as Student Government Association president, to talk with her peers, friends, and colleagues across CUNY and in her personal life, and give us a sense of what they thought would be the top 5 issues currently facing college students. We do recognize that the things that face Gutman students are not exclusive to Gutman students. Verily, uh, CUNY Hunter, CUNY Baruch, CUNY John Jay, CUNY Medgar Evers, all students are facing similar issues. And so we got this top 5 list that Jerain provided me with. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So Jerain, are you ready?
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. So one of the things that stood out to me was this notion of a lack of motivation that you spoke to in your notes to me. Give me a sense of what that's like.
Um, I don't know. The best way I can explain it is like at first, when you're in quarantine, you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm so gonna do this. I'm home. I have so much time. I have so much time. And then you eat more than you can chew. And you're just like overwhelmed. And then that's when everything kind of crashes back. You join maybe a little bit too many clubs. You maybe, did a little bit too much and you're just overwhelmed, right? I feel like it starts with being overwhelmed first. And then it starts with like realizing like, oh, wait, no, I'm tired. Like I feel students don't really give themselves a break. And whether that be with school or just outside of school activities, whether it be work, family, anything like that, things that just get really intense after a while, you start to lose general motivation, whether it be for life or school, but specifically schoolwork in this case. And, a lot of students are not uh they're like dropping out or they're dropping courses or not ineligible to graduate on time because of lack of motivation. I feel like it's affecting a lot of the psyche of students, for a few reasons too. It has to do with mental health. Every case is a little different. So, mental health is definitely a big topic right now because it's like we're all kind of cooped up at home, stuck with our thoughts. And then at first it's wonderful because you're just like, oh my gosh, I want to try these wonderful things. And you get the hang of it and it's great. But then after a while, you're just like, what now?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's where it kind of all comes from. It's just like, well, I'm just tired. What do I do? Like everyone's just in a really not so great like funk right now. There's so many worries, there's so many stresses, even outside of like home government politics, local news, everything like that. No one ever really reports good things. So it all has to like, it all plays a part.
Yeah. So I mean that's heavy, and I know that uh, this motivation seeps or ekes into other areas that can affect students' productivity. Because you also mentioned productivity has dipped, and I think you put it through location, which you mentioned in your notes about the no real motivation, the location students being home, and now there's this dip in productivity, academically, certainly with work, and in their lives in general, seems to be a theme that we've heard repeatedly and often. And the other reason why we asked Dr. Blake to be with us is because I think she as well, as a key member of the faculty, is able to see it from the other side, which is the professors' viewpoint in terms of the kinds of things that they're seeing. So Dr. Blake, do you see a correlation between what Jerain is saying here about motivation and productivity with regards to what your faculty peers are saying?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone, and greetings from the faculty. I completely agree with everything that Jerain described. One of the things that the faculty is actually working on together is maybe not necessarily labeling it lack of motivation, because in the back end of that, there comes the guilt of not being able to be hyper productive during this period. And one of the things that the faculty have talked about amongst themselves is the idea that we're still living through, something very episodic. This is a huge, huge pandemic. 500,000 people have died. There are real financial worries. New York has changed. The landscape of politics was, problematic and continues to be problematic. There was uprising, and now, a resurgence in a social movement around equity and equality. So just with that influx of different things happening, it's really building an understanding that students are doing the best that they can do at this given time, and we have to find ways to support them during this time, which translates into how do faculty members approach work or pedagogy in Blackboard? How can we streamline our courses to ensure that we are also not adding an extra burden to a student? How do we ensure that students are not going to 5 platforms when they could be going to 1? How do we ensure that, an assignment is labeled correctly in Blackboard, or the assignment due date is regulated over 12 weeks so that students really know what to expect and how best to pass that course? So I think that's something that the Gutman faculty have been trying to work on now that we're, not in survival mode. We're like deepening our practice now that we've done this, for more than a semester, but really understanding that students probably are not performing fully, not because they're lazy, it's nothing like that, or they lack motivation. There is something real happening that's disrupting the idea that we can make progress in the college degree, and this is something that we're really, really, really committed to. And it's really interesting because faculty themselves feel the same way that students also feel. Their lives have also been disrupted. They're also tired. They're also dealing, with the influx of negative news. Many faculty members have also lost parents and family members during this period. So, they're in this moment with you, and also watching their children and their family members go through this experience. And the trick is to create that empathy where we recognize that we're in this space, and we as a community have to figure out how best to support students to ensure that all of you can continue along the path to earn your college degree, because that's the main goal, without compromising the rigor of the courses or the outcomes that we expect. Because we really have to make sure you're prepared for your 4-year college, but there are ways to make this journey more palatable during something that, hopefully we will never have to live through again in our lifetimes.
And thank you for that, Dr. Blake, because I think what you touched on is something that it's this universal truth that we are all impacted by this. So as much as students are impacted and finding that they have to change up what they're doing. So too are our faculty. And I want to go back to Jeraine, because another point that she makes here in her notes, which I think is incredibly relevant. Students not getting anything from school, meaning real world experience. So one of the things that the pandemic has robbed us, I believe, and I'll ask Jeraine to clarify that, is when students were on campus, they had an opportunity to speak with professors one on one. They had an opportunity to interact with peers. They had an opportunity to speak to the various service agencies, with each other. Then they got a chance to take those things that they learned and go out into the real world. Some of it was an internship, some of it was a real life job. So, Jeraine, can you give me a sense about what other, real world experience stuff you were talking about in terms of student loss? And you're back to being muted. Let me unmute you. I'm sorry. Um,
Hi.
there you go.
No, it's okay. And I don't know. I feel like this definitely goes to just simply having a conversation with your professor and networking, and just general we're like real life experiences, like even commuting on your way to school, like just meeting new people, like networking that way. Um, sometimes we had to make an appointment with our professor through Starfish, and not all of our professors are even on Starfish. So it's a little tricky because it's you know with real life experience, you make deeper connections than you would through Zoom. You can meet new people faster through Zoom, but it's not a long lasting thing. And when you meet someone in person, right? And it's obviously right now it's not possible because the pandemic, it's very dangerous right now. Thankfully things are coming down, but you know, when you meet someone in person, the impact stays there because there's always something you'll remember about that person specifically, which is like makes them in a way more memorable than you would with meeting like 50 people via Zoom, and then like half of them, their cameras are off. So, and like, most of them aren't even talking, which is kind of like the norm now. And then people just, it goes back to motivation. You lose motivation to even want to do what you want to do. And online, there is definitely a lot of postings of like, oh, you don't have to go to college. You can be a millionaire this way or that way. Some of them are true, some of them aren't. And then obviously people aren't going to know which one is which. And they get kind of screwed over in the end because they'll drop out because they'll be like, oh, I can do this and that and that. But it's like, you can do those things, but also always have a plan B. Don't just drop everything all at once and just multitask, if that makes sense. So, because they want something in the now. Students want something in the now. Like, I want to do this now. I want to become a millionaire now. I want to work my dream job now, which is the dream. We're all chasing the dream, but we also have to realize things take time. And I feel like with the pandemic, just time is going by so much slower.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dr. Blake, thoughts?
I think Jareen, hit the nail on the head in the sense that the thing that makes us human is the connection. It's that connective piece, it's that connective tissue. And going to college is, fundamentally about those experiences, is that odd conversation in the hallway, or, that brief conversation with a professor or a staff member who inspires you. We're trying to be more intentional. I'm going to follow up with the comment that you made, Jareen, that not all the professors are in Starfish. So that's something I made a note of, just to make sure that, the students know how to connect with all of the faculty members at Gutman. We're a really small community. So that's one takeaway from what you've just said. And I know that VP Pryor and his team is working, with the faculty to ensure, or to help us figure out how do we maintain those deeper connections with students, whether it's a synchronous session. Hopefully in a couple of months, we'll all be in person, even partially again, so that we can reconnect and build those really important relationships that define, our college experience. I think the last time I was on the Grizz, I talked about my mentor, who I would slip into his office and just talk to him, and I can't imagine what that must feel like for you guys not to be able to sit by your, professor's desk, or, see someone in the atrium and have a conversation with them. But it's something that we're going to be working on in terms of maintaining building deeper connections with the students, through SGA, through UMOC, through GRIT, but also just creating more space for students to come and show up and talk to their faculty members. I know that faculty members have put out their office hours, on the flip end, they're like, where are the students? We're sitting here, the ones who come, but there's a group of students who may be at work, or who may be tending to someone, or maybe, they feel a little afraid or a little shy about going to talk to their professor who they haven't met in person because they started online. So my ask of you, Jareen, is if you can encourage students to go and seek out their faculty members, to have conversations with them and to really talk with them. The faculty members are really, really committed to students and the student success. And, you can always loop back any negative feedback or positive feedback to VP Pryor, and he will pass them on to myself. And then we'll consider those things like actionable items, whether it's positive or negative.
And thank you. I think that that also loops into one last thought that Jareen had shared, and I think we'll take this to the end of the conversation only because we're being cognizant of time. And we could spend all day speaking about the things that this has impacted. But Jareen said the students are scared to ask for help, and I for one feel that is very real. I know that from personal experience, having sat in the building, in the office downstairs that I share with the SGA, students would come by and hang out outside the door and poke their heads in and wait until like I notice them to then invite them into the office to ask me the question or have a conversation. Um, Jeraine herself used to sit downstairs in the hallway with Easy, her service dog, and have all kinds of conversations with folks as they came by. And we've lost that magic of that happenstance, magical human connection, which I think leads itself to people asking for help comfortably. Is that what you meant by this stuff, Jeraine, when you say students are scared to ask for help?
Yes and no. I feel like it definitely plays a big part because the comfortability is kind of gone right now, especially with, social anxieties are going to definitely be a lot worse now than they were prior. But it also has to do with students feeling like they have to be perfect and like they have to, like, in a way, not in a negative way, but in a sense of like pride, like I have to do good, like I have to seem smart, I don't want people to think I'm stupid, more in like an insecurity type of way. And like, let's say like they do ask for help, they could be, unfortunately, they could go to the wrong person and get the worst help they ever got. And then they're like, no, I'd rather do this on my own. And then, instead of getting like a math tutor, they try to do it, by themselves, which is great to an extent. But if you're not understanding the content, that's what makes it more difficult. So it comes with like little things like that. And that was just on campus. And now it's just amplified. You don't know who to go to. You're not really making friends in your cohort as much as you used to. And even in your regular courses, like I've spoken to people from other classes from other campuses that have had unfortunate experiences where they get COVID and they tell the professors, hey, I'm sick, can I have an extension? Professor completely ignores them. As far as I know, that hasn't happened at Gutman, but it's unfortunate. And then their grade suffers because of it. And when they try to ask for help, no one is helping them. So, it's like they're running around in circles and no one really knows what to do because it all depends on who you go to. And that's what, yeah.
No, that's a very real experience, and I'm sure it's one that is sadly becoming more the norm for students. Is what is that map? How do I get from point A to point B? That where sometimes it's like you are here, and then you can see which path you need to walk to get to the place that you want to or need to be. It's a little harder to discover that via the web and the internet interfaces and the 5 or 6 different ways in which we do interact with each other. So I appreciate that. We're coming up in the 346 mark. So I really quickly, before we move any further, Jerain, any final thought that you have for the folks in this chat, for folks that may be listening to this at some point in the future? Like, what's President Jerain Nieves's thought of the day?
My thoughts is to not be afraid to ask for help and just know nothing is really forever in a positive and negative sense. This will all pass over. Obviously, of course, it will take time. Follow all guidelines, wash your hands, don't touch things in public. But it's just a matter of like just being careful, and also don't be afraid to ask for help. If anything, my email is always open. You can drop it in the chat, Nestor. You can contact me if you don't feel comfortable going to like someone else. I am very open to all. I will help you get the help that you need. But don't be afraid to network. Like, email your professor once a month saying, hey, how are you? How am I doing in your course? Because let me be honest, that helps a lot. And you make wonderful connections with your professor. Just scheduling a Zoom call like once a month to see how you're doing in the course. It definitely, in my opinion, helps and makes a big difference. Because like, let's say you're in the brink of failing, that one point could be like, okay, did this person reach out and actually try, or did they just slack off? And, it helps. It really does help. And you meet wonderful people in the way. You can network with your professors, obviously after you graduate from Gutman, but they want to help. They initially do want to help. And I feel like that's important because at the end of the day, we're all human. We all, we're all here for a reason. And it's important to keep that in mind. Everyone is very stressed and overwhelmed right now, especially students and, staff. But we just gotta keep it pushing, I guess.
Keep it pushing. Wise words. And thank you, Jerain, for taking time to be with us today. We really appreciate you and all of the work that you and the SGA team has been doing throughout the year. This has been an SGA experience like no other. I will say in my 23 years of higher education, this is the first year that I've barely interacted with my SGA in person, almost entirely remote, and it's a weird thing to not have that in person, in your face connection that we typically do as a team. But you and your team are strong, have done some good work, and we are proud and happy for those of you that are getting ready to complete your degree requirements and transition to your senior colleges, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you for being our first student voice guest, and stay tuned because we may have you back sometime down the line before this thing is over. So have a great day, Jerain, you and Easy the dog. We really appreciate you. And so now I take it back to VP Pryor. Thoughts on the conversation that we just had?
I want to thank you, Nestor, obviously for moderating that. Thank you, Jerain. I think your perspective that you shared was important. It was powerful. And also a big shout out and thank you to Dean Blake for coming in and sharing that perspective and sharing what some of the struggles and concerns of our OTR. As you said, we're all going through this and we are trying to learn how to recreate that connection that typically happens in the building and more importantly in the classroom. Some of my most important moments of mentorship happened in the classroom in a kind of organic, natural way where, a tough situation pivoted and became a fantastic situation, when a challenge became an opportunity and a question became a root of solutions. So thank you for sharing how we are trying to prepare our faculty and our staff, and I'll say the community, to work with one another, to support each other, and of course, all in the mode of and toward working toward student success. It's powerful, it's important, and that's why we're here. Is to help our students to build a strong foundation of success so that they can carry that to their life as lifelong learners. So thank you very much for that, Dean Blake. It's important. I really do appreciate you taking time. Um, I, you know, I sat back. I enjoyed that conversation. I found myself being less of a participant and more of a spectator, because an audience member, because it really was a fantastic conversation. And I wonder how many times these subjects are discussed in an open space, with folks really just sharing perspectives and sharing opinions, because this was healthy for so many reasons. And I hope that those that are watching and listening now, and those that watch and listen later, really can get the benefit of it, because it just was it's important, especially at this stage in spring one, that folks remember we're here together. And that communication is key. And while
Yes.
I know it's tougher to write an email than to say, "Hey, professor, I got a question after class," um, a well-crafted 3-sentence email will get you such a return on your investment if you do the outreach. It really will.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if there was one takeaway that I can pull from the conversation, it's that this is active, right? This isn't a passive situation anymore. You could
Right.
passively be in the building and be around when conversations happened, and listened in, and maybe scribbled a note to yourself, or wrote something into your phone. Uh, that's been removed, and now you have to do something in order to get the outcome you're looking for. And so a lot of times that means taking the first step, because it's it's one thing for me to see a student in the building looking out of sorts or looking sad, and being able to come over to them and say, "Hey, what's going on, Mike or Susie? You look down. What's going on?" That's been taken away from us on this side of things, right? We're students sometimes saw each other and we're like, "Hey, what's going on with you today? You don't look like yourself." We've definitely lost that because we don't have an opportunity to see each other unless we turn on the camera. And so now what we require in most cases is for the student to say, "Hey, I'm here and something's not right." And even if you don't want to tell us what it is, at least tell us that something's not right so we can start the path of inquiry to get to the root, and then start to figure out some solutions that will put the student in a better place, whether that is completion, right, transfer, or transition into the professional workforce. um, our goal is to situate the student in a better position post Gutman than they came in. And we have to acknowledge that not all the paths that students walk will lead to a commencement or a graduation of sorts, but rather the hope is that they are better positioned to create the life that they want. And I think Jeraine alluded to this, that right now the internet is rife with all sorts of invitations to start your side hustle, follow your passion, do this internet course and learn how to make millions of dollars selling real estate overnight. The reality is anything that involves your attention requires you to step up and do something first. And that holds true for success in college, success at Gutman, and then by extension, success at life. And that's what we're all here to talk about, right? That's what we're doing is trying to get people to that place.
Absolutely. We're here to talk about that thing called life. It's, my favorite artist, one of my favorite artists, Prince, once said. So again, Nestor, thank you. Thank you, Dean Blake. Thank you, President Nieves. Thank you to those that take time to participate and engage in this show. As always, thank you to all of those healthcare workers, essential workers, those in the medical field that are, distributing the vaccine and helping to move us through what we hope is the end days of the pandemic. so that we can get to our next reality. We appreciate you. We thank you. And Grizzlies, as always, we got your back. Have a fantastic day, and we'll see you soon.
2 weeks. So a couple of quick notes, VP Brian. Thank you for the move to the end. Couple quick notes that we want to share with folks before we get out of here is, first, we want to say to them, please, please, please pay attention to the ever important, ever evolving Gutman library page. This is critical for your academic success, and it has been revamped, renovated, and has all kinds of wonderful ways for you to interact with our brilliant and amazing library staff who are going to set you on the right path to the documents that you need to make the papers sparkle and be brilliant. Alongside that, when you're looking to take a break from all of the madness, please visit our events page, gutman.cuny.edu/events, for the latest and greatest events that are happening, brought to you by Gutman and in partnership with our CUNY peers. We've got a wonderful Women's History Month program slate, so pay attention to that kind of stuff. And lastly, but not least, is you're going to see State of the Grizz evolve. Once upon a time, it fell on us to create a show that responded to the immediacy of the pandemic and the things that were happening around us in the world. And so State of the Grizz was the way that we wanted to bring it to you. We're going to rebrand for year 2. And so my hope is that in 2 weeks, you're going to see that new identity come out, and State of the Grizz will become more of a news-focused show with a couple of segments that feature and highlight the student voice and other members of our Gutman community. And we're really excited about what that means and how you can be a part of this momentous occasion. We're trying to create good episodes. Dean Blake alluded to the episodic nature of our history as of late. And what we want to do is create some good memories. So State of the Grizz will do like all Pokemon and evolve and become something new, something brilliant, something shiny and fresh and dope, because I'm old school. And we hope to have that for you in 2 weeks when we come back here. Same bat time.
Same bat channel. Thank you, Grizzlies.